Hey, hooligans. This is Bo McManus from HairNetRadio.com, and welcome to Bo Knows Metal. As always, I promise to deliver rock's elite, and this case is no exception. From Britny Fox to Count 77 to his current solo project, tearing it up on HairNet Radio. Joining me right now is the man himself, Mr. Tommy Paris. Welcome to the show, man. What's going on?
How you doing, Bo?
Good, man.
Good to talk to you, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate taking time to come out and listen. I know a lot of people looking forward to hearing from you, so we're glad to have you on board. I started off with the intro mentioning Britny Fox. Obviously, your musical journey started long before Britny Fox. So where did you first get bit by the music bug? Where did it all start for you?
Well, going all the way back to the very beginning, I was living in San Jose, and we lived in San Jose is kind of a big city. And when I was about 6, my dad died in a plane crash, and so that kind of turned all of our worlds upside down.
Wow, I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of lost. So one thing led to another. My mom got remarried, and then like about a couple of years later, we moved up north to a really small town. And my mom got a piano, and she was learning how to play it herself. And I just started sitting down at it, after school, and I really started to take to it. And I kind of found my solace in all the tragedy and stuff about my dad. And I could bury it in the music, and I'd forget about it. So I kind of lived on it. I would be there after school, right up until bedtime, and pretty much on it every free moment I had. So that's the very, very beginning.
Yeah, it's amazing how much escapism you can find in music. Everybody relates to that. I even remember as a kid having a tough day at school and stuff like that, or having a fight or something, and then coming home and then just put on the headphones and you totally escape to another world for a while.
Oh, yeah, it was really powerful. I would come home to put on of course, we had records then. If whoever's listening remembers anything about those from the yesteryear, they were these wax things back in the early 1900s. And
exactly.
They turned into hard wax somewhere along the line. And now, actually, it's funny though. The vinyl has actually kind of come back a little bit in vogue. It's kind of cool. But anyway, I'd come home from school and put on an album and put on the headphones and just trip out to one side of an album and then turn it over. And yeah, it was great.
Was there, when you got into rock music, obviously you started moving in, picked up on rock music later. Who was the person that really got you into rock music?
Well, I had 2 older brothers at home.
Right.
And they were both playing their stuff that they liked around. And so I was kind of exposed to stuff that kids in my class weren't listening to unless they had older siblings. So my eldest brother, Kurt, he was listening to like Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and Rush and Ted Nugent and stuff like that. And then my next oldest brother, middle brother, Craig, he was listening to stuff like, he liked Rush too, but he was listening to stuff like the Eagles and Bachman Turner Overdrive and et cetera, et cetera. So between the 2 of them, I was listening to mostly what they listened to, which is those kind of groups, back then. And then I got into, on my own, I started listening to stuff like Elton John and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Kiss and UFO and stuff like that, and just kind of branched out from the Who. I like the Who a lot.
And what's great from having that kind of eclectic music taste, it really develops you as a songwriter and a performer too.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of like people are kind of surprised at some of the stuff that I like when they, because you don't necessarily listen to the stuff that you play, or write. It's interesting. It's like the influences end up showing that they're somewhere, but like, I listened to stuff, obviously was into classical music when I first started playing piano and taking piano lessons. I actually took lessons both from this dude named Arnold Berg, B-U-R-G-E.
Right.
He was like this really old dude. This is in the early 70s, and he was from a vaudeville period when he would do the circuit in vaudeville. He was probably in his early or late 80s, early 90s when I was taking lessons from him. This was in 73 or so. But so yeah, he exposed me to some like sort of vaudeville period stuff and et cetera. And then I got into classical music. Was taking classical lessons for a few years, and then of course the rock. I got into rock music, and I also got into pop and stuff. Not much country. I wasn't a huge country fan, but there were a few tunes here and there. Mainly old country because my stepdad, that my mom remarried, was playing some of that stuff around, like old George Jones and stuff like that. And then I got into the progressive rock thing, of course, with Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and Rush and Kansas and stuff like that. I went down that road too, and it was just pretty much everything. You name it, and I liked it. Even the Carpenters, I liked some of their stuff too. You name it, I was into it.
Yeah, and I love that too, because you always notice the best writers and performers always have a real eclectic taste in music. If you're one-dimensional and you go your whole life only listening to Kiss or only listening to Motley Crue or even Rush or anybody, it's very limiting what you can do.
Yeah, well, because I noticed, for example, I mean, and there's a million examples, but just take a guy like John Bonham, for example.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of drummers that were into him, that tried to emulate him, and that was great. And a lot of them did; they could emulate portions of him. But the truth is that if you check out what he was into stuff like big band, and swing and jazz and stuff like that. He obviously played rock, but so it's basically like they took some of the. I mean, that's why he can swing so well. That's why his feel is so just incredible, because he's not really, he's playing rock music, but he's not technically just like a rock drummer. It's like he's bringing in all these really cool feels that you have when you play stuff like swing and big band and jazz and stuff on drums, and then playing it at Mach 18 million decibels.
Well, you always heard that joke people make about John Bonham, that they say he invented the double kick drum, because he said nobody could actually do on a single what he could. So I came up with the double to keep up with him.
Yeah, dude, and Ian Pace from Deep Purple was the same way. He could do a lot of that really fast foot stuff, and it's incredible, dude.
What he could do on a single bass drum was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
There's even a lot of guys with a double that still can't keep up with that.
It's tough, man. It's like it's all feel too. It's not. I think what happened is some drummers in the later years, they got part of it wrong. They got the rock part of it right when they're trying to be Bonham-esque, but they missed the underlying theme of what he's all about. His background and stuff. Yeah,
and Jason's a really incredible drummer as well, his son. Yeah, he's certainly done a really good job carrying his father's legacy. He's a fantastic drummer. You see a lot of his father in him.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I saw this like behind the scenes clip when he played with Zeppelin, and they were busting his balls because he had a double bass pedal, and Robert Plant goes, "Okay, let's try that song again." And Jason with his double bass kick pedal back here, he can try to jump in with it or whatever. It was great.
Yeah, it's true. It goes back to that whole single. Yeah, that's just incredible to me. So I got to ask you, what was your first really heavy band you got into? I mean, formed, not listened to, but I mean, what heavy metal or hard rock, whatever people want to call it nowadays, band did you actually start to play in?
Let's see.
I'm assuming it was probably high school somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the heaviest music back then. We didn't. I mean, there was. I suppose at the time, the Who were pretty heavy. But early Kiss was kind of heavy. But as far as what you're talking about, I don't know when the Ramones started. I don't know if you can call that heavy. I'm trying to think of the heaviest thing back then. Maybe Black Sabbath. Maybe Judas Priest. No one was really doing anything as far as I knew or was exposed to like Pantera or anything like that.
Yeah, I could only think probably of Priest and Sabbath. You're right, at that period.
Yeah,
there would be two heavy hitters for that. Yeah.
Yeah, Priest and probably I guess Priest probably because they were out. I remember listening to their first couple of records, and I if I'm not mistaken, I think they started around 74, 5, 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think Stained Class, I think, was a little before that, I think.
Okay, yeah. So, we were we were listening to those when they were actually out. This is way before British Steel and everything that most people know from them. We were listening to that older stuff, and we were digging it. It was cool, it was like, so I would guess that. I can't really think of anything heavier than Judas Priest,
And that's a great thing when you get into stuff. You sort of come into it when it's popular at the time. And that's what happened with me with Priest. I got into them when Screaming for Vengeance came out. Because that when that came out, I was only about 8 years old when Screaming for Vengeance came out.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually heard that at a pinball arcade, and You Got Another Thing Coming, and that was, and I never forgot that, and I thought, wow, that's neat. And then I actually went back and listened to the other stuff, because at that time I didn't even realize there was albums before that one.
Yeah, a lot of people that same thing happened to me with Alice Cooper, Bo.
Right.
In fact, I got reprimanded for not liking the proper era of Alice Cooper by the guys in Britny Fox.
Yeah.
Because they were into like early Alice, and I didn't get on board till probably, 4 records in, right?
Yeah.
He had a greatest hits way back when, I think 74-ish, if I remember, and it had Schools Out on it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he had 2 or 3 or 4 records before that. I don't remember, but
right.
I do remember telling those guys, yeah, dude, I love Alice Cooper, and I'd mention a few songs, and they go, oh, that's the shitty stuff, man. You got to hear the first couple of records. It's like, okay, well, I like that stuff too, but I didn't know. I jumped in. I was into him like you with Priest. I just got in at that time, So yeah.
Speaking of Britny Fox, I got to ask you, do you got another Britny Fox album in you, or do you think you're done with that? If the opportunity come up, do another record and tour, would you do it, or is that kind of behind you now?
Well, here's the thing with all that. It's really industry driven. Like we haven't had some massive falling out or anything not like that. It's just I'd say in the last 5 years, everything has changed so drastically that there's no real demand. It's hard to put a band out on the road.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and do dates unless you've got. I mean, even bands that have sold a ton more than Britney have a hard time getting out doing it. So, and at this point, I think it's just, I think the band, as far as with me, and it has run its course for me.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal.
No. Yeah. It's just run its course, and sometimes, obviously, it's still a business too, as well. At the end of the day, you still have to make a living and go forward with it. So obviously, if there's no money to be made at all, it's not that you don't want to do it. It just doesn't. It's not in the cards. Yeah,
it's just it's the Wild West out there, like crazy. I mean, it was getting there, but there were some vestiges of the and small semblances of the business hanging in there.
Yeah.
So probably the last 5 years, and then it just went kaboom, like nothing. Like the entire bottom dropped out, and infrastructure, as anyone knew it, or infrastructure is in as far as it hanging around in the tiniest way has even gone away. So. Yeah, it's.
But that leads me to my next question too, because I've been wanting to ask you this for a year. I had read somewhere, and the problem with the internet, so much what you read is bullshit. And I read at one time that you guys were actually in the studio working on some songs for a follow-up to Springhead Motor Shark, and then I kind of never heard anything about. Is that actually true? Did you guys actually go in and start to record a follow-up, and project just shut down, or was that just bullshit and it was never happening?
No, that's true. We were doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I always wondered about that because I was always curious what happened to those tracks that you were working on.
Yeah, we were just getting into it, and we were trying to divide up time. We were doing shows and stuff then, and trying to get the time to, because everyone's scattered all over the place, so we were always, traveling somewhere to be together. Then we got together back east, and we were working on some stuff for a short period, yeah.
Did you guys ever think of just releasing that stuff?
Nah, not really. It's we never got a chance to complete it anywhere near something that.
So they're just rough tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we never even got. Yeah, we never even got too deep into it,
Yeah,
so.
got you. But it works out for you, and then you play as well keyboards and Count 7/7 with Danny.
Yeah.
Yep. That's an awesome band as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's awesome. They're a great time. They're a bunch of great guys, and I play keyboards and sing backups.
Yeah. You guys did a gig not too long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, we played. I think where was the last show we did? We played at Vamped a few times. We did.
Didn't you do a gig? Am I wrong, in South Dakota or something? Or am I wrong? I thought there was one somewhere, a one-off one somewhere.
Yeah, there was. I can't. And now I'm trying to remember where the hell that was. We were last in, somewhere in the Midwest. Okay. Oh, I know. Tulsa.
Oklahoma, right. Okay, yeah. We were
Yeah.
both missing on that
Hey,
one. We got her though. We nailed it.
we got it. We remembered.
There you go,
We're there
man.
now, Bo.
There you go,
Yeah,
man.
we got it.
So obviously the biggest buzz going on right now is your solo album. Because everybody's talking about that. Like, no bullshit. I get people messaging me all the time saying this is incredible.
Dude, I'm so grateful for the reaction it's had. It's like, you know, I'd wanted to do one properly for a long time, but it's just I've always kind of parked everything and used it up for Britny Fox because his opportunities would come and go over the years. But
Right.
yeah, finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this going. In fact, there was a while I didn't write. I was just kind of like letting myself not do anything having to do with the music for just a while. You know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these riffs and stuff started coming to me, and I just started, you know, recording little rough demos of them. And pretty soon, I had a ton of them. They just kept coming to me, and most all that record. That's how that whole record basically came to me, just kind of by accident. It was just wasn't even looking to write a lot of the time. They were just coming to me, and I'd record a little. I'd have a guitar riff in my mind. I would just record it and just put it aside, either on my phone or on my computer, and just not even listen to it until later, you know, and went back and listened. I go, yeah, there's some cool riffs in there. I actually like some of that stuff. So
Yeah, that's one of the advantage of technology. You can put stuff down pretty quick.
yeah, I use my phone a lot for ideas.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like before you had to run in and grab a 4-track quick and try and lay something down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, you know what I used to do, Bo? I would, if I had a melody in mind, I'd keep singing it in the car for the 20-minute ride home until I got home and could go record it on something. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, once you get that in your head, you can't shake it. You like, I got to do this because I might forget it.
Yeah, it's nice having the phone, boy. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember.
Yeah, so I'm stoked about the reaction. Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I love the way that album come together because it all comes together to make one statement. And I've said before, one of the things I actually love about it is the songs are really tight, nice times on them. They're not drug out. I don't like songs that have like a 3-minute intro and then the song starts.
Yeah, that was by design too.
Yeah.
I really like 3-minute songs, and I think especially these days, it just so happens I like that length of song, but especially in 2019 right now, it's like people's attention span couldn't be.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking that because I was reading that too. Nowadays, it's amazing. Everybody's so busy. Even at 6 minutes a song, people are like, that's too big of a commitment.
It is. Hey, 3 minutes is a commitment.
Yeah.
They could barely get that in, but yeah, I mean, this whole record goes by in about a half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time I listened to it, I was like, it came together, the whole thing, to make one statement. And I thought that was really cool how you put it together, man. The writing's good, the music's tight, everything come into play.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It was by design too. This is kind of a lost technique that anyone has used for a long time, because now people forever now have not listened to albums. But there used to be the pacing of the songs on a record was actually quite a consideration, and the whole record from the beginning to the end, the order of the songs was really important. You know what I mean? And I tried to do that too. I rearranged the order quite a bit till I liked it. I don't know. You could probably keep rearranging it forever, but I just put it together in the most.
Well, that's the problem now too with the digital stuff, is that a lot of people now are missing the whole album experience. They're just running out and buying the singles on iTunes, and they're not even realizing what the rest of the album is. If any of it gets released of a single, then they'll run back and buy it. But otherwise, they don't even know more than 2 tracks off an album.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game, you know. And it's been like that for a while now. But I still like to pace it because there are still people who will listen to it from the top to the end, and I like that. And that's kind of how I like to pace it. Whether anyone listens to it that way or not, I still like to do that. But I mean, I probably would rearrange it even today if I re-put it out, whatever. If I do discs, if I do discs and we're play live at some point,
right.
I'm not sure if we're going to do that till after I make another record. But if I do, I'll probably change the order anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm glad you like that it made a statement. That's cool. I'm still one of those people too that like the physical product. I hate buying a whole album on a download and just keeping it on your hard drive. I hate that. Yeah.
I like just buying the CD or the record and just actually having it where you pop it in the stereo. And I like the old school big speakers still. I still have an old Marant stereo with a CD player, and I just put it in. I don't like listening on a computer with two little 2x2 inch speakers on it. I'm just not interested in that.
Yeah, me too. I listen to it either in the car or listen to it on my studio monitors at home. I got some Tannoys and a big sub, and I listen to stuff on there. Yeah, you know what? Surprisingly though, my son, he showed me some earbuds he got, right. He said, "Dude, check these out." Right? He put them in, and I was listening to some EDM. He writes EDM music, and I listened to it. I was like, it was incredible how much, because they've been working on trying to make earbuds sound, fatter with more cool low end, and they're really doing a good job. I got to hand it to them. They realize that people are, just like you said, they're not interested in hearing it on crappy little speakers. So, yeah, the in-ear things are getting better, but still nothing beats having it come through speakers and move air and punch you in the gut.
Yeah, because it's the full experience, right? At least to me, when you're just doing it the other way, it's just not the same. But I guess if you've never done it, you don't know what you're missing too, right? I guess a lot of the millennials don't even have any idea that there were speakers that were like 3 feet tall.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not sure what they go to a concert and they're like, "Whoa, man," But yeah, that's cool. Like the truth is, I took forever to mix that record. I probably remixed it 15 times ish, and then I spent a while mastering it, trying to get, it's kind of mixering instead of actually mastering. Because if I didn't like I would try to get a lot of times you can take a mixed record and then you can EQ it more in the mastering.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like doing that. I like to have it show up in the mastering with the least amount of EQ, compression, and everything possible that it needs. I like to just barely be treating it, So these days, as opposed to trying to, you could actually do a lot to a mildly decent mix in mastering and make it sound pretty good. But the better you show up, the better the mix is when you show up, the better, obviously. But anyway, so these days, rather than trying to I could have done more mastering work, but I would just go back and remix instead, But when you listen to this album on a system that has good subs and stuff,
mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time trying to make it kick your nuts in.
It works. So. Trust me, I've heard it many times on it works, man. You did the job. You accomplished it, man.
Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it.
I got to say, a great thing too. The one benefit of technology now, as opposed to going out and recording an album at $150,000 budget, it doesn't have to cost you that much anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, dude, with all the stuff we can complain about that's happened with the advent of all this technology, some things like that you just can't even compare it to. That's such a godsend, And then it comes back to this, though. It's kind of like, that crap in, crap out phrase.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, Jesus, these days you can have 60 billion tracks, as many tracks as you can even comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
These days a computer will handle it. But truth is, it's kind of like, what's the point? What are we actually doing here? It's like for example, real quick, Quincy Jones?
Yep, of course, yeah.
Well, he said he took notice of all this going on. And he goes, these unlimited amount of tracks are awesome. It's great. You can do a lot of things. He goes, but what happens is you end up with paralysis by analysis because you're afraid to move forward to just make a decision and do something. He goes, Jesus, the Beatles, when they recorded, they had 4-track recorders, so they would record drums, bass, and guitar on 3 tracks. Then they'd mix those and bounce them to track 4, mono, right? And then erase the first 3 tracks and continue on. And so if they screwed it up, they'd have to cut it from the beginning. I mean, because at some point you just have to make a decision,
Well, there's a lot more passion in it that way too, with the older way of doing things, because you put so much of yourself into it.
Well, yeah. Well, picture it, Bo. It's like when you jam with other guys and they're there in the same room with you and you're looking at each other and you got a PA going, the vocals are coming out of there and the amps are fired up, drums are going. That's a completely different vibe than like being in headphones in the studio with just the drummer and guitar player, say, playing. Because that's how we've done records and stuff like forever, and everybody's done. You just kind of get the basic stuff down and then overdub the rest, and that's cool. You can make great stuff happen that way. It's not a problem. That's not the issue. The issue is that there's not as much humanity going down to recording as could be, and I miss that. You know, it's like the next one that I make, I'm definitely gonna darn near play it live and then just tweak a few things after the fact.
Yeah, literally just sit it out and jam it out in the studio.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly, and just have more fun with it. Because at this point in my life, it's like I don't need to just get a record done for any particular reason. So I want to enjoy doing it. You know, I want to have fun, the most fun I can have doing it. And I harken back to time whenever you just set the mics up and they're actually it's going live to 2-track, and you're just recording. Well, this is back in the day, but we'd record a live cassette, right? Just let it run. We'd make the best rough mix beforehand. Listen to a few takes right before you do it, and then just let it run for the whole hour or whenever it ran out, and then take it in your car and listen to it. That was so much more rewarding than any other way.
I know it's so crazy now, because sometimes I'll hear bands actually say, we just put out a new album, and somebody will say, yeah, we haven't talked in about 6 months. And you're like, didn't you just finish the album? They're like, yeah, but we were doing it cross country. We were just sending files back and forth, and he'd send a track in, I'd play on it and send it back. And that's literally how they're doing the album. Some people aren't even actually talking to each other. They're just sending files back and forth.
Yeah, and then the thing is, Bo, you can do it, and you can create great results,
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I don't mind like imperfections and some of the stuff here and there a little bit. It's like you can get overboard, and I've done it myself. I'm guilty of it. Trying to retweak and fix and do this and that to everything to make it as great as you can, because it's something you want to be proud of. So it's a fine line though between making it perfect and having it breathe,
Yeah. The technology's helped the music. It's hurt it a lot as well. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it now with the Napster and everything. But I've said to a number of people, could you imagine that in 1989 you had all this technology with Facebook and Twitter and everything, but the twist was everybody had no choice but to buy physical products. Still, digital did not exist.
Yeah.
People who were selling 2 or 3 million would be selling 9 or 10.
Exactly.
Because your reach is unlimited, and you don't need record companies. They wouldn't push albums sometimes, and you wouldn't even know they were out till 2 months after they'd already been out. But now you could go out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, and people were still forced to run out and actually buy the CDs and the records.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would have been incredible, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was such a different game then. I mean, from the day I started doing music and doing bands early on, it was the same game. It went to probably, I'd say, right up to the late '90s, as far as I'm concerned, which was you got to get a record deal, because you need this army of people to get it out, get to release it, and et cetera. And of course, the machine at that time was that same one that was back in the earliest days of rock in the 50s or whatever, with Chess Records and all those guys. And the game hadn't changed at all. And then when the technology, I'd say the late 90s, because I think that's when it really started picking up tempo as far as the technology racing past these labels.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and so like I've been having to rethink approach here for every few years for the last, since the 2000s. It's just crazy. It's like it's just changing so fast.
Yeah, I know. I remember watching a Rat documentary one time, and Juan Crochet from Rat was saying one day, I went from a way to make a living to absolutely nothing, like literally overnight.
Yeah, dude.
Like he showed up in the arenas and he's like, hey, where's all the people? Yeah, it's crazy. It literally happened overnight.
It really did. Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, there's. I mean, I still love music every bit as I ever have. It's just the speed with which things have changed has really just forced my hand in many ways that I just have no choice about.
It's funny to me, in my opinion. I mean, at least that's my opinion. Maybe some people may not agree. I think the crazy thing is the whole internet thing actually brought hard rock and heavy metal back, because I think once grunge came in and record companies cut off access, basically, because they controlled it. If they didn't put you out there and they didn't advertise you, nobody knew you were out there. So unless you were going to finance your own albums, pay for TV spots, back then, people would take out ads in newspapers and stuff. Nobody had access to you. They didn't even know where you were. But then once the internet hit, all these bands started popping up saying, hey, we're still here, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Everything cost so much back then too.
Yeah.
Cheap video back
But like $50,000 or something, wasn't it?
Exactly. And that was, that was considered pretty cheap. It was like, well, let's just do a cheap video. Okay, yeah, just $50K.
Yeah, that's all. Low budget.
Yeah, low budget. With a scratch by.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit.
I know, really.
Yeah, insane. And so, and like you said, it's like, the truth is, like, these days, with the mainstream, like, you could tell by all the award shows, but like rock is probably as unhip maybe as it's ever been in my life as far as the mainstream goes, right? They're barely included on any award shows. They barely included on a lot of things anymore. It's just a very, very, very few, and it doesn't make for the greatest music because you're not spreading around the competition. There's just a few at like the labels have all kind of dropped off. They used to have a sliding scale of support they'd use for groups. It seems now it's just a cliff, for just the very, very top artists, and then nothing.
Especially now, because if anybody wants a record deal, you basically have to sell your soul to get it, because they're not making money on sales, so they want part of your touring, they want part of your merch, they want your firstborn, they pretty much want everything.
They want you to donate a foot to them somewhere during the tour.
Yeah, because their main line always is, well, we're not making money on the sales, so you got to compensate us back in some way.
Yeah, it was like the streaming. What you earn in streaming is pretty incredible. They're trying to move some legislation forward to try to change some of the royalty rates.
Yeah, that's the Music Modernization Act, correct? I think it's called.
Tyler was behind
it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're working on it. So that's cool. You heard about Frampton? He got that really tiny check for like having some like 50 million streams on iTunes, and he got like a $1,200 check.
Yeah, I remember. I saw Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot blacked out, of course, the address, showed a check from, and I think it was literally for 49 cents. And it was like for 200,000 plays or something.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
really
that's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
Well, and the thing is, some of the stuff, I don't know for sure. I don't know exactly how they've acquired all the music they have, but some of it's definitely got some license problems. It just has to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because they couldn't afford to do it otherwise, I don't think. It wouldn't be. So when that catches up, there'll be a result of that, too. I mean, there'll probably be, it'll start making things a little harder to have heard online. So, I mean, everything affects everything. So it's going to,
Yeah, there's all kinds of deals going on there, no doubt, with the labels and these companies behind the scenes that nobody even knows about.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got to be, obviously it looks like between the streaming services and the people holding the licensing to the material, they must be taking up about 98% and then divvying up the other 2% to the artists. They have to be.
Yeah.
Because where's it going? Because I don't understand too. They're issuing checks to artists like that, but then they're saying they made like $300 million in profit.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like, where is this all going then? To the executives that work there? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the company in general. Making a killer profit. Right?
Yep.
God bless them. It's America. It's capitalism at its finest. But hey, throw me a little bone here, guys.
But I mean,
Bo, look that's why people like piss on Kiss and the Stones or whoever because they charge ridiculous amounts for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and I agree. At some point, I just laugh though. At some point, where it costs like, if you want to go back and hold Paul's guitar in a picture with him or something like this. I don't know what it is.
It's $20,000 or something?
Yeah, this one was, Then the Stones had something like...
I heard it's $35,000 for the Stones?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Eddie Trunk was talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly silly. Those are extreme examples, but the rest, when they have these... we would never have dreamt in the old days of doing anything with, paying the meet and greets. We you didn't even think that way. But because you're not making any money anywhere else, it's like that's why everyone's charging to come back and touch the turkey bone that Teddy ate after the show.
You know what, though, I have to say in people's defense, I don't understand as much, obviously, with Kiss and Aerosmith and groups like that, but I think definitely bands on the club scene are playing the club circuit. Obviously, they're not making, $8 million, $10 million off a tour. So when they do meet and greets and they do it for maybe $100 or something, that's not too bad. I mean, I understand that they're not making a lot on the other end, so that you got to offset those costs. I actually understand that.
Yeah. That's well. Here's what it was. This was years ago, but I asked my son. He was going to see Coheed and Cambria. Have you ever heard of them?
I don't think so, but
Yeah, they're like a obscure type group to dinosaurs like me, but my son was into them anyway. He was going to go see him in concert, and I said, hey, so he goes, yeah, I'm doing the meet and greet package, and I go, how much is that? And he says, it's $160. He goes, is that just for you? He goes, yeah. I go, what do you get for that? And he said he gets to go to see the sound check, and then he gets to meet him afterwards, and I'm not sure a few things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, how do you feel about that? He goes, oh, it's great, man. It's awesome. I go, oh, right on. So that he wasn't aghast at all. That's how it is.
I gotta say though, if you get to see a sound check and stuff like that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, once he told me that, I was starting to rethink some of that kind of stuff. You know, it's like I said, it was just something hanging on to a dinosaur. I am just hanging on to the old work, the old infrastructure that was, and it's like things have changed, man. They've completely changed. So, yeah, but he said no, he's stoked. Yeah, $160, that's killer. So
the only thing people got to realize with the meet and greet, some of the bands don't, is that you got to put on your game face when you do it. Because I've heard horror stories with them where people have gone to the meet and greets and met somebody, and they're like just basically signed something and literally say, well, hurry up and get out of here. I got to meet somebody else. It's like, it's a little awkward. So you got to put on that game face, say, hey, it's great to meet you. Even if you're sick and you're not feeling it, it's just part of doing it, right?
Yeah, to me, everybody who shows up, you owe them. You know, they showed up and paid money to come see you. It's like you owe them a lot. Remember my mom told me the story. She would see concerts. She was a concert head, and she saw the stuff that she liked. Anyway, she saw Billy Joel at one year and Neil Diamond, for example, and she ripped on Billy Joel and said, oh my God, don't ever see him live. He doesn't play hardly any of his hits. It was just awful. It was like he couldn't be bothered to do Piano Man, whatever. And then the opposite, when she saw Neil Diamond, she goes, oh man, that was the best show. He came out, he did every single solitary hit he's ever even thought of having, back to back, and just smiling the whole time, had a great time. Like, you know, and I know if you get tired of playing something, but it's like people show up to hear it. It's just like, you know, you owe them. It's kind of like, you know, they're paying you. They play those tunes. It's like that's what they're there for, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I understand too. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're all human. Sometimes people are having bad days, and maybe you're not probably in the best mood, and you're not thinking time. Maybe say something that's not the most polite thing, and then you kind of realize later, oh man, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. So I mean, I understand it sometimes, because sometimes you have a tough time, and you don't know what people are going through, right?
Yeah.
Because that happened, I know, with a guy I worked with, where he started being really mean to people one day. And people were going, what an asshole. And I said, actually, his father died yesterday.
Exactly.
And he's going through a lot right now, and they don't realize that. I mean, the guy had just lost his dad. So, I mean, you know, people just make it sound, well, the guy's just a prick. Well, not necessarily. Maybe he's going through something that's really a big deal right now.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, you know, everyone's human, you know, got to give each other slack for stuff here and there, because, you know, we're trying to roll through each day and get through it as best we can, you know.
That's it, man. So I got to tell you one thing about this album. Everybody's telling me you're living proof that people want to hear the new music.
Well, I love to hear it. I love it.
Because it's funny, so many people say to me that nobody wants to hear the new stuff. They just want to hear Six Guns Loaded and Louder, and they just want to hear, you know, Rock and Roll All Night or Screaming for Vengeance. But I don't think that's true at all, because I mean, I get reactions from all kinds of people telling me this is awesome, like when they hear the new stuff.
Oh, that's just priceless to hear, Bo. That's great.
I know, but I never understand the critics, because they're going out there and saying nobody really wants to hear this stuff. I don't know why they keep making it, but I keep getting the opposite. People keep telling me something different.
Yeah, dude. I think it's just, you know, thank God people are digging it. It's like, you know, it's creeping out up there. It's been heard. It's being heard, and it's. I'm completely grateful, dude. It's like, you know, I got a bunch more records in me. It's like, you know, when the time comes to play live, I'll take it out there when I can do it, you know. But yeah, I'm totally grateful for that, though. It's like, really, it's like.
Yeah, I remember, man. Like the coolest experience you can have with an album, because you always worry, especially if it's something new you haven't heard, because sometimes you hear new stuff and you're like, oh no. And then I listened to your album and I was like, man, this is awesome. And then I remember how psyched I was to get it on the show.
Yeah, Bo, I appreciate all the airplay so much, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it means a lot to me too. I mean, it's the coolest thing for me as well. I actually get a great feeling when people message me and say, wow, man, haven't heard this yet. This is awesome. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really cool, because then you realize that a lot of people feel the way you do about it.
Yeah, it's killer, dude. It's like I get emails and I get, people talking to me through DMs and stuff, and from all over the place, I wish I could corral them all up into the U.S. because then I could probably put a short little tour together and actually be able to afford it. But no, but they're spread out all over the place. I mean, I get replies from all over, people digging it, and it's like,
yeah, I do too. I get all kinds of people telling me I love this album. Well, look, it finished in my top picks of 2017. It was a top contender. Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yep. And that's basically 90% of it based on what the people wanted.
It's priceless.
People are telling me that's what they want to hear. Then it's really based on that. It's simply put on who people want to hear the most. That's how the placement is. So.
Yeah, love it. It's just great. I couldn't hope for more as far as the reaction. And you do your best, and then you put it out, and you're hoping people dig it like that. But and the thing is, I wanted to make it something that I wanted to like first.
Yeah.
Just because it's like at this stage of it all, it's like that's why I remixed it so many times. I was like, this version's way too wet. Too many effects, too much crap on this, and then I do another. Next one will be too dry. It's like, oh, it's bone dry. It's like,
yeah.
Even though if I liked it that way, like a lot of the '70s records, I really like the amount of effects they didn't use then. It's like more dry, but it can get a little too dry. So anyway, I bounced around like a freak for a couple months remixing that thing.
But what's great about that too is not dealing with the record companies. You don't have that pressure to put out an album, because back in the day, the record company would really control that narrative, where you'd be out on tour and they'd be saying, we need the next record turned in and here's the date it's coming out. And you'd be on tour saying, shit, we got 2 months to write and record this album.
Yeah. Springhead Motor Shark. Excuse me. Anyway, so yeah, dude, we were in that situation with the Springhead Motor Shark. We had, John was on tour with Doro, and we owed that to Spitfire, and we had to do it. It's what it was. It's completely off the map of what. Anyone.
Yeah, it was definitely a departure, but it still sounded pretty cool.
Well, there's some people who really liked it. I mean, it was definitely it didn't really maybe sound like a Britney.
My personal favorite track off that album was Pain.
Oh, right on.
I actually play that on the stage, and I really like that song a lot.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like what we were doing with some of that stuff. It was cool. It's like,
yeah, it was different, but it was different in a cool way. Some people just do shit for the sake of being different, and it just comes out crappy because there's no really effort behind. Just we'll try and do something different, whether it sounds good or not, and see if people like it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it was. The truth is, if we were in a situation, and then, and Billy, to his credit, I got to say, I think he was right. But we would always disagree on stuff, But he said, rather than do a lukewarm record that sounds like Britny Fox, with songs that aren't quite as good, let's just pick our best 10 and just make that record. And I think Michael and I were like, no, we got to do a record that people will expect a bit more, because the songs that we wrote that we thought were good they were good, but they weren't necessarily in the vein, So we were teetering on that. And I think in retrospect, his call was right, because why not put your best songs on there? It's like, it's and so we did that. We just put the best stuff we had. We put it, some people didn't dig it, but some did. So, but you never know. Like I said,
it was funny. I went through that same experience when Dean had left the band and you had taken over, because I liked the first album and I liked Boys in Heat. So when I heard Dean had left the band, and then I heard that you had joined the band, obviously the first thing I was really curious about was to hear what the next album was going to sound like. And I'll never forget, I went out and bought the cassette. I heard Louder the video, I remember, on Much Music here in Canada at the time. And I liked that song. And then when I got home, I put the tape in. I remember Six Guns Loaded starting. You hear the ch-ch, and then the little lick in the beginning and stuff. And I remember like going, man, this is awesome. It's even more driving than it was before.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That was another one. We butted heads a lot because we were in the same situation. It was probably even more so then. Yeah. We always butted heads, truthfully. But back then, the thing was like, okay, because I was pushing as far as I could in my direction, right?
Yeah.
But they were very conscious of the fact that, you know, that we really got to try to make this the next logical step. Even though it's a new singer, it's like we can't like go off in any direction too far. So the three of them were definitely united in that part, but they were willing to stretch a bit too. Obviously,
but I think in my opinion on that situation, you actually did the right thing in that, because the problem is, I think if you try and recreate the whole Dean vibe and sound, then it just comes off as contrived. Do you know what I mean? They're just trying to stick to Dean's formula and keep it going because it worked. But with you putting your essence into it, it actually brought it into a new direction. Because I love that album, man. When I heard it, I wasn't disappointed at all that Dean was gone. I don't have a problem with Dean. I thought he was great. But it wasn't one of those things where, you know, Tommy's in the band now and it's awesome. It sounds terrific. I can definitely get down with it, right?
That's cool, man. Yeah, it was, you know, until that it actually hit the stores and stuff, it was mixed and it was mastered and done, right? And it hadn't come out yet. That was probably the most nerve-wracking time, because it was like, God, how are people gonna take this? You know, it's like, how are they gonna? And obviously, I couldn't be more happy with how it went. But yeah, you never know. Do you put your best feet forward? But yeah. So the only one area that we did these crappy little 4-track demos on cassette, these little Tascam.
Yeah, I remember. Yep, Tascam 4-tracks. Yep.
Yeah, with the DBX noise compression.
Yep.
And we had demos of a bunch of stuff anyway. Unfortunately, a lot of those got out, which is another bummer story, but whatever. Because they weren't good enough for the record. A lot of the songs, Jesus, we probably did 50, 60 songs, you know. But anyway, one of them was Closer to Your Love, and I really dug it. And no one else, the manager and no one in the band like thought it fit into the 10 as far as being good enough. And I just said, no, man, trust me, it's gonna be cool.
You know, it's funny you mention that. I actually have that same opinion, because people listen to Station a lot will realize when I first started at that station, the song I played the most was Closer to Your Love. Even though originally the first single was Louder, I was actually partial to Closer to Your Love. I remember rewinding that tape over and over again and playing it.
No shit.
Yeah, I swear to God. I was always attached to that song. And when I started playing tracks off that album, that was the first one I started playing. That and Six Guns Loaded.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that if somebody wants to hear something on there these days, I'll put Closer to Your Love on, or send them a link to that, and then let them find out whatever else they like on their own, you know. But that's my favorite, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, when so they relented and they let me have my way. You know, not necessarily into it, but once we got in the studio and started doing the chorus, doing the chorus vocals and stuff, all of a sudden, you know, everybody got it. They're like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, this is a cool tune. But it took till then for it to actually, and I could hear it, how it would sound done properly, not just on a crappy 4-track demo, but until we actually got in there it was at Devonshire, we were doing vocal overdubs. Yeah. And it just sprang to life once we got that going. So that was cool. That was a really cool experience.
Yeah, that was definitely an awesome record. And I would say for anybody that's in your situation, it's the hardest thing to do. I don't envy anybody who's replacing the original singer, because you haven't even delivered product yet, and you already got people who are like, oh, I don't know, man, he's not the original guy. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you're always going to have that handful of people that be like, well, no matter how good he is, he's still not the original guy. And you're always trying to fight that. And everybody says that people don't realize how hard it is to do that. I remember Ronnie James Dio doing an interview. It's on YouTube, actually, and he was saying the first 2 years he was in Black Sabbath, all he saw was the middle finger. People in the audience sticking the middle finger up at him because they wanted Ozzy back. And that's how the first 2 years was for him in Sabbath.
Yeah. It's And then of course everyone came around later, you know, obviously knowing he's killer. It was just, you know, they moved on, but boy, what a, you know, all you gotta say is Dio. It's like, holy crap, he's just one of the best, man. Just absolutely one of the best.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
of my favorites. One of my favorites. Yeah.
I always get heat from everybody. I always thought that Dio was a better fit for Sabbath than Ozzy, and I get people rip my head off over it. But I always thought Ozzy was better on his own, and then I thought Dio was a better fit for Sabbath because Dio had that more of that mystical whole Dungeon and Dragon kind of thing going. I thought that fit Sabbath more than Ozzy did.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Ozzy Sabbath, but I think I was even more into the Dio Sabbath because that when Heaven and Hell came out, we would just breathe it out.
Yeah.
It was on every day and just couldn't get enough. It was just awesome.
Well, I was funny. I had my iPod with me last time we were going to Vegas back in October, and I had that album Heaven and Hell on my iPod, and I literally listened to that like 4 times on the way because it's basically a 4-hour and 20-minute flight. Yeah. And I literally listened to it like 4 times on the plane, the whole thing. It's not that long. I think it's only like 30 minutes long or something. Back to the Having Tight songs short.
Yeah, man, what a strong album, dude.
Yeah.
It's one of the best. One of the best. Every song on it's just smoke and it's like, yeah, that would talk about a perfect. That's a perfect album. I love Mob Rules too and Live Evil.
Yeah.
And even Dehumanizer, I like a few songs on. But as far as like the whole album, I think Heaven and Hell is just absolute gold.
Yeah, I think on Dehumanizers, I think TV Crimes was my favorite track on that one.
I like TV Crimes, and what was the opening song? Oh, Computer God.
Yeah.
That's killer.
And the album cover was really good on that too.
Yeah. Have you ever cranked up Computer God?
Yeah, I've cranked up that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's killer. Yeah, but Heaven and Hell, man, that was the shit.
So what do you think, living in Las Vegas, I got to ask you that. It seems to me every time I get back down there, they're getting a music scene down there. I mean, there's really starting to be a scene developing down there. I don't think there was really one before, but I noticed there's a lot of local bands starting to pop up down there.
Yeah, I mean, after things like the LA scene, everything's going to pale in comparison. The next one was Nashville, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, a ton of musicians have come to live out here now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I'm basing a whole week's of shows on that because I'm going down to Vegas from the 15th to 20th, and basically everybody's going to be showcased down there, come on the show that week, and they're all basically, for the most part, based out of Las Vegas.
Yeah, everybody seems to live here from all those rock bands. Yeah, that's probably part of it. It's like home base now, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and it's getting a great scene down there too. I've said it many times on the air that my prediction is that Las Vegas is going to be the next Strip. There's going to be an explosion of talent down there. I see it in the future.
Yeah, you never know, dude.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, it's like I said, everybody. It seems like everybody got a memo that if you're in a rock band, you have to move to Las Vegas now.
Yeah. So it's the hot spot.
Yeah.
It's sort of Vegas on the Strip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent stuff.
We're gonna miss you by just a week because you're leaving the 15th of April. Did you say?
I'm getting a flight out on the 12th, so next Friday. Yeah, next Friday I'm heading out, and I'm there till the 20th, which is the Friday I'm leaving. I believe the following Friday is the 20th.
Okay, yeah. We're playing in Fremont the following week, and then the week after that we're playing at Vamped.
Oh, are you kidding? That's what happened the last time.
Yeah.
I remember I was going to come out.
Run into you one of these times, dude.
Yeah, I was going to come out last time, and then my wife's like, "I have tickets to Absente." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh." So I'm like, I guess I can't tell her no.
You gotta go to see those shows, though. You know.
They are good shows. I've seen the Beatles Love like 3 times.
Me too.
I love that. I never get tired of that show.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite shows in town. It's totally worth going. Have you ever seen O?
Yeah, I have. I didn't care for it that much compared to the Love, but I mean, it was pretty good, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, compared to Love, no.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. A lot of that water works that they do and stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah, they got a lot of great stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of big things happening down there. So what's next for Tommy Paris? What do you got going on?
Basically, right now I'm just continuing on. It's doing some Google ads for this album and trying to have it be heard by more people. And we were going to go out and do some dates, but I think at this point I'm probably going to just gear up and do a new record coming up when the time's right here, because I have a bunch of new stuff written.
So you're ready, to start tracking and whatnot.
Yeah, I will be. I have a good start on a full record, probably about 15 songs.
Oh, wow.
I won't start recording until I have at least probably 35 or something.
Yeah, because quickly those 30 turn into about 10 or 12.
Yeah, in fact, that's the low. 35 is probably like minimum. It sounds like a lot of people are like, why would you, why don't you just write, 10 really good ones? And it's like, wow, I wish I could do it that way.
Yeah.
It'd be great. But I don't know, it doesn't turn out that way. I was
telling
the guys in Ages of Rock podcast, I think, was like, when you write something, if it gets too precious, and you over coddle it, and so let's say I just did 10 and then just picked the best 10 I had and didn't write anymore. Well, if I do 35 or more, then what happens is like they start kind of making themselves known which ones are good or not, and I can just tell without having to, be too precious about any particular one. I can just like throw them out without even caring. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the whole thing, because a lot of times they grow on you. They start developing, and once they start adding this and adding that to it, number 10 moves up to number 5, and maybe number 3 moves down to number 8. It depends on how they turn out. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you'll say, okay, well, I got these. Say we'll do 15, and then cut 5 out. Well, some of the ones you thought were like, that's okay, but it'll stay in the 15, but it's probably not going to be decent. And then one of those will turn out like killer, and one of the ones you thought was going to be really killer is really just kind of like, it's kind of lukewarm.
Yeah, you sort of lose interest in them for whatever. But I think the reason you lose interest in some is because other ones become so much better.
They do. They've
evolved more than some of the other songs. I guess that's obviously why you can't just start with 10.
Well, yeah, because I can't anyway. I suppose some other people can, and that's great. I'm not that prolific, but to me, they can end. And that's the fun part to me is when you do a bunch like that and you have demos, at least half-baked demos of them, then you can be like, or at least in your mind or on paper in any particular way, and then one of them will peek out and surprise you at some point and be really killer, which you didn't anticipate, But
well, I mean, it's so funny that you'll see so many stories with bands that will have the big song, and they'll be like, the record company didn't even want it on the album.
I know.
And they're like, I don't think this song's going to go anywhere. And then they're like, no, we got to have it on there in the record company. It's like, okay, but it's really a filler. And then it winds up being a number 1 or something back in the day. And it's like, whoa.
That's exactly though. I think it's a surprise. Like, for example, a couple real quick ones is Rush. Their highest charting song was New World Man, technically on the actual charts.
Yeah.
I don't know if it broke the top 40, but it got pretty high up. But it was on singles. They didn't even have it. They were right to the end of the record, and they just went in and just crammed something together, kind of to just fill, and that's what they came up with. They thought, just kind of a little throwaway tune that's like highest charting song they've ever had, even higher than like not Closer to Your Love. That's my song. Closer
to the Heart.
Closer to the Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, Closer to the Heart. That one was a good charter, and this one outdid everything. That's kind of also like, I don't know whether if you like it or not, but like Cherry Pie.
Warren.
Yeah, Janie Lane was like bummed out that he wrote that.
Yeah, he always said that he kind of resented the song.
Yeah, it's like, and that was another thing. I think it was a last minute thing they wanted.
Yeah.
And he just wrote it to please or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's like I think it's a great song. It's like
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I was like, I had no idea he felt like that about it. I was like,
I think,
dude, that's a great.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think the thing with that is, I think because I think the same thing happened with Extreme. Because I think they said with More Than Words, what really bothered them about it is all ever people thought of them was More Than Words, right? And then they were like, yeah, there was actually other songs on that album too,
Well, I tell you what, though, Bo, that's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, when you have a number one like that, especially back in the day when people were lining up in the record stores to buy them, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it goes back to, it's like the whole Billy Joel and Neil Diamond story my mom told. It's just kind of like, hey, you're lucky to have those kind of problems where you're tired of playing a song because you played it so many times and for so many people. Oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Jesus, yeah. So, but a lot like Frankenstein off that Edgar Winter album, They Only Come Out at Night. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I sure have, yeah.
Okay, well, Edgar Winter was actually like a jazz dude. Mm-hmm. So they set out, he put that band together, he wanted to make a great American rock album. That was his goal. Right? So he got those guys and they did it. So they didn't want to do jazzy stuff because he was in a band called White Trash and they did more jazzy type stuff. Well, anyway, he decided, well, this record's just going to be all straight ahead rock and roll. That was the goal. And they did it was a great record. Then they decided to just play around with that instrumental, right? And it was even longer than the single version on the record. They chopped it down even there, but the first single was Free Ride. Right. And the B-side was this edited down version of Frankenstein, and they just tossed it on because they thought, yeah, no one will listen to it. It's just a B-side. We don't want to put one of our good songs.
Yeah, and then it went the complete opposite.
Yeah. DJs were getting Free Ride, and they did play it, but they were flipping it over and telling other DJs, dude, you got to play that B-side. You'll trip out. And, of course, that song was...
Yeah, and the rest is history. You got it.
Yeah.
The rest is rock and roll history, man.
Absolutely. I always wondered about the album cover, and I don't really care why, but I always wondered why he didn't wear the red lipstick. I love the album cover, but I wonder what conversation was had where they said, hey, dude, you get your nice lamb chop sideburns going, kick ass. We're going to put a fan on you, right?
Yeah.
Light you up, and then just get some of that nice, really bright red lipstick on. It's going to kick ass.
I wouldn't say you'd really want to be a fly on the wall in that one.
I just love it. It's the greatest cover, dude. It's so cool. I remember, of course, parents were shocked by it because it looks so wacky, but yeah, well, that's a great. Have you heard that whole album? That's a great one too, dude.
I've heard pieces of it. I haven't heard the whole thing. But the album cover, it's funny with everything that's going on now in the world, the creativity that takes away. I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, which David Bowie album cover was the one with him smoking a cigarette on the front? And they wanted and Walmart wanted the cigarette removed.
Really?
Yeah, because he was smoking. They said it was sending the wrong message or something.
Wow.
I mean,
I don't know about that one.
But what's crazy about that to me, with everything that's going on in the world, that's like a big concern.
I know, right?
Yeah, people are just, I don't know, they got too much time on their hands. That's what I think.
Some definitely do.
What can you do, man? I don't know.
Yeah. That's a trip, yeah.
But that's the way it is with everything nowadays. It's funny, people always go after the wrong things. There's so many terrible things going on, and nobody really pays attention to that. They just want to nitpick at little things that aren't really hurting anyone.
Exactly. And on the one hand, it's kind of amusing,
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad.
It is sad, yeah.
It's like, dude, just come on, man,
But that's what the world's come to. I mean, you tune in the 6 o'clock news, and the top story of the evening is like Britney Spears getting a divorce or something.
Yeah, that's always been how it is, man. It's like, I mean, it's definitely gotten worse. Like, we were watching news in way back in the day. There were 3 news channels, and that was it. I mean, there was no round the clock.
Yeah, it was ABC, CBS, and NBC. That was it.
Yep.
Yep.
And
nothing else.
Walter Cronkite. And you only had news I think at 5 and at 11.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you're right. Now it's 24 hours a day.
You remember that? I'm
yep.
sorry. I keep chopping you. There's a delay on the phone. I'm sorry about that, folks.
Oh, never worry about that, man. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember being glued to 2020 every week and stuff like that, but that was actually real programs.
I think they did a better job, and I know there's been bias, and they've uncovered more of it over time. Mm-hmm. If you look back, there's been bias on stories and stuff, but there's always going to be. It's just always going to be. I don't think you can help it. But I think they tried to run a tighter ship then as far as bias,
I think the obvious problem is, too, though, when you're running news 24/7, you need content. Right? That's the whole problem, right? You say we got 24 hours of programming to fill, and there's been like 2 stories today.
Exactly. That's why it's all opinion pieces. Have you noticed that? Yeah,
it's all commentary now.
That's all commentary. They'll have only the two stories still, just like it was, but they'll have a panel of guys and gals talking about the story all day and night. It seems like that's what they do. But the good news is, though, at the end of the day, after all the insanity with people going after the wrong stuff, I do believe reason prevails, and I see bits of it here and there where things sort of work themselves out in the public eye. People have ears; they're listening too. They're trolling and doing stuff, but they're also listening. I think stuff does get tried in the public eye, and kind of probably the purest way for something to get tried.
No, absolutely.
I think reason does prevail.
But
you're right.
Yeah, more importantly than that, though, we still have music. That's the one thing everything goes back to.
Yeah, amen for that too.
Yeah, you got it, brother. So, people want to find you. Where can they find you? Obviously, TommyParis.com, the website.
Yeah, that's the main one to go to. I have links to every single thing there, so you can just go there. I have everything that I have goings on there. There's a link to it, so you can scroll down pretty quick through the page on your phone, and there's all the links there.
Yeah, I've checked your site out quite a few times. It's actually really cool. A lot of great content on there for sure. Has your whole discography and everything on it. So if anybody who hasn't checked it out definitely needs to go check it out. And you have 2 Twitter accounts. You have Tommy Paris and you have Tommy Paris Band as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are both really important to follow as well. And there's, of course, Counts has an account. I'll put the links all up anyway on the Twitter. Yep, and we'll get everybody to follow that. Not that they don't already, because you're pretty popular. You're one of the most popular guys on Twitter.
Well, I don't know about that, but
And in rock music, you definitely are.
Yeah, I'm pretty far behind Oprah still.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, but
I don't. Way to go.
I don't think she could beat you on a solo. I'm pretty sure of it.
I'll go head to head with her, Bo, if you set it up.
There you go. We'll set it up, man, and we'll do it live on the air.
All right. Well, I'll take her down one lead at a
time. One hand. You just do a bunch of pull-offs. That's it.
I'll start with my left hand only, and I'll only employ the pick when she starts sounding too damn good.
You should probably bring in somebody to play for her. Pretend it's her. But don't worry, we'll keep an eye on her. Make sure she doesn't cheat.
Yeah, no, fully live now. Full disclosure.
That's right. You got her, brother. So anyway, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and hang with us, because everybody's looking forward to it.
Well, thanks for having me, Bo. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the airplay you give me. I really do. Thank you so much for that.
You'll always have it, man. As long as you keep going in the direction you're going, you're always going to have my support and the hooligans, man. They can't say enough good things about you.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here as well, dude.
You're more than welcome, man. You're welcome to come back anytime when you get the new album out. We'll come back and chop it up and put it out there to the people, man. Once again, round 2.
Right on, dude.
Anyway, everybody, just want to thank Tommy, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Until next time, folks, keep it on 11. Cheers. Thanks a lot, Tommy.
Y'all.
I really appreciate it, brother.